Hey folks, I hope everyone's having a good weekend. I had anticipated a rebuttal about a specific video I had recently posted. However, I wasn't expecting the reaction my video had. So as a heads up, today's video is going to be different. We're going to forego my usual intro and get right into it. Let's do a quick recap. I promise this won't be too long. Now, before I go further, let me establish the ground rules. Because unlike the video aimed at me, I'm not here to sling mud, name names, or try to send anyone after anybody. That's not my style, and it never will be. The video in question framed me as someone who copies work, or rides the wave of another creator's ideas without originality. And that's a serious claim. And it's one I take seriously. Because it's not true. So I want to unpack what was said, why it completely misses the mark, and why the way it was presented is a problem in and of itself. Before I do, I'm sticking to something that was supposed to help me avoid drama and accusations. I don't mention other content creators by name. Why? Because I don't have their permission. Simple as that. And honestly, the impressions I get from established content creators and their material, they don't tend to come across as inviting in that way. They've been around a hot minute. I'm fairly new. And I've watched a lot of various content creator videos. And after a while, you tend to hear or see certain patterns. They generally cater to the audience that grew with them. Not so much the newcomers to the game who overall have absolutely no idea of the encyclopedic knowledge of a 10-year-old franchise. I've said this before, and I'll keep saying it, especially for those in the nosebleed seats way in the back. I have had so many newcomers come into my Discord, join my clan, and say the same thing. I copied a build from a well-known content creator, and I still ate the floor as soon as I started shooting, and I can't figure out what the problem is. This tends to make the player think the build sucks or the content creator lied by showing clipped footage of a highlight reel. You know, the important details a lot of build videos don't address. So in a sense, I've spent the last several years picking up the mess you leave behind for neglecting to go over that in your build videos, mentioning again a huge reason why I don't do build videos. So yeah, my channel was created in large part to being inspired by the established content creators because of that mess they tend to leave behind. So when a content creator decides to upload a new video, I tend to check it out. What would be today's topic? Do they see or think what I'm thinking when I'm playing this game? But then, one content creator annoyed the absolute shit out of me with a recent video. A call to action to folks come back to his favorite mode, PvP, so it could be alive again. Didn't really address the issues with the mode. This creator has elites in his comments. I've read them. PvP is the bomb. So much XP during the XP events. Lots of caches. We be kings! Well, I have a lot of comments in my videos too. They comment on the dark side of PvP in the Division 2. Cheating, hacking, toxicity, the devs not banning cheaters, not updating easy anti-cheat, the glacial response for showing proof of cheaters, and so much more. So when watching other videos, you have a tendency to cover the same topics. If this content creator who'd decided to call me out directly would have included in his video the information about viewership retention, he'd have understood and explained that a lot of you guys don't watch videos from beginning to end. Average watch time at best is a quarter of the length of the videos, especially for someone new to the game, like me. So we're going to use similar language. It's not copying. I write all my scripts. Yes, they will include similar text, especially if we're covering the same topic. That's the nature of language. It's gonna happen, whether you like it or not. Par for the course of content creation. I knew that coming into the game. Did you? So this creator recently released a video, let's just say, and made me part of the subject matter. My name, my channel, my images, my gameplay, featured and discussed. And in the process, a lot of claims were made about what I supposedly did and what my content represents. Longer recap than I intended, but I believe context matters. Now, This wasn't about drama. It's about integrity. It's about being consistent. And it's about respecting both the creators who put in the effort to make content and the viewers who give us their time and trust. Another big reason why I didn't mention names. It was out of respect. I didn't have their permission. I've made comments on their videos and that never went answered. So I assumed I wasn't seen, and that's fine. But that's why I have the opinion that content creators that have been around a while could come across as elitists. Let's go back to the context for a second. The whole reason my name came up in the first place was because of a PvP video I made. That video wasn't just some throwaway commentary. It was a direct exploration of how PvP in the Division 2 plays differently depending on mode, how players interact with it, and why the discussion around it matters. It was also a direct rebuttal to what I felt was a severely out-of-touch video someone else made. I made clear points about the differences between the Dark Zone and Conflict, how the player base engages with each, and what often gets overlooked when PvP debates happen in the community. My intent was simple: to push the conversation forward. Not to shut anyone down, not to steal someone else's words, but to challenge assumptions and offer my own take. Now, in the video where I was mentioned, instead of engaging with those points, those actual arguments, the focus shifted. Instead of discussing what I said about PvP, I was cast as someone who supposedly borrowed too heavily from another channel's material. In other words, the actual conversation I wanted to have was dodged. The attention was turned towards questioning my originality. It was 100% deflection. And that's misrepresentation. And it matters because it distracts from what we should be talking about, the game itself. The Division is at its best when there's debate, when creators bring different perspectives. You could disagree with me all you want. You could push back on my analysis. You could even say I'm flat out wrong about PvP mechanics. And I welcome that. What you don't get to do is pretend that covering the same topic automatically means copying. Here's an example. If I talk about the balance between armor and DPS and PvP and someone else does too, that doesn't mean one copied the other. This content creator at least made that effort in his recent video. It means we're both engaging with the same reality of the game. If a patch hits and both of us mention the same bug or the same balance change, that's not theft. That's what happens when you cover a live service title. It's also part of watching other videos covering the same fucking thing, dude. Eventually, you're going to say almost the exact same thing. And that's actually a good thing, because it means the consumer of said content is hearing it from multiple sources, which reinforces the fucking point. So, when I made my PvP video, I made it to challenge a trend I saw. And the response I got wasn't a counter-argument. It wasn't a, here's why I disagree. It was a pivot. Look how he copied me. That's not debate. That's avoidance. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Because while I was accused of borrowing too heavily from another creator, here's what actually happened in his video. My name, my channel, my thumbnails, my images, and my gameplay were all shown. My work downloaded, edited, and placed into someone else's content without asking me first. I can't think of a better definition of a double standard. Think about it. I'm accused of stealing ideas or stealing words because I covered similar topics, but the very video making that accusation directly used my actual work, my visuals, my words, my output, and it wasn't paraphrased or referenced casually, which is what I try to do. It was placed side by side, shown on screen, and picked apart. Now, if you're familiar with how I handle myself on this channel, you already know my policy. I don't name other content creators directly unless I have their consent. I'm repeating this for a reason. I don't take their footage, their clips, or their scripts and splice them into my own work. That's not how I operate. Why? Because I respect other creators enough to keep the focus on ideas, not personalities. So when I see my work being used inside of a video that simultaneously accuses me of misusing someone else's, the contradiction couldn't be more obvious. And let's be clear, There's a difference between fair use and lifting material. Fair use is when you transform content, critique it, parody it, or build something new from it. That's why my thumbnail was created the way it was. Simply showing my work as evidence without engaging with its substance doesn't meet the bar. It's not transformative, it's extractive. And the irony is staggering. The person who set themselves up as the defender of originality crossed the very line they drew in the sand. And viewers deserve to see that clarity. Because if the double standard is don't use someone else's work without permission, then the standard has to apply to both ways. What's the adage? For thee, not to me. Here's what frustrates me the most. The original point of contention, the PvP discussion, was never addressed. Not once. I made arguments about the PvP balance being skewed, how Dark Zone and Conflict function differently, and why creators should be clear about those differences when they make claims about the meta or other build viability, why creators need to be critical of the cheating and the hacking and demand Ubisoft Massive or the devs to do better in the next title. These aren't niche issues. They're real problems that affect players every day. Instead of engaging with that, my video was reframed as an act of theft. The actual points, they were ignored. The mechanics, skipped. The analysis was completely overlooked. And this is where I need to be very direct. If you're going to respond to someone else's work, respond to the arguments. Don't judge them by inventing a narrative about originality. That doesn't push the conversation forward. It shuts it down. You got a problem with my presentation? That's fine. We can have a discussion about that. Keep in mind, I'm going to point out the hypocrisy. I wasn't looking for applause here with this video or any of the other videos. I wasn't looking to be agreed with. I was looking for honest engagement. And I didn't get it. What I got was a straw man version of myself held up for viewers to compare against a narrative that didn't reflect what I actually said. Elitist re-enters the chat. And that's the part that actually pisses me off. Not the accusation itself. I know who I am and what I create, but the fact that the viewers were denied a real debate. The Division community deserves better conversations than that. You know, the other thing you mentioned? Community? I'll say it again. Find some wood. Let's zoom out. This isn't just about me. It's about what happens when accusations like this become the norm. If every time two creators cover the same bug or the same patch note or the same season finale, one of them cries theft, then all we've done is create an environment where nobody wants to talk about anything because everyone's afraid of being accused. The Division 2 is a live service game. Of course our videos will overlap. Of course our conclusions will sometimes sound similar. That's not theft, that's the nature of covering the same subject matter. And speaking the same fucking language. When someone frames that overlap as copying, you're not protecting originality, you're stifling it. They're discouraging creators from contributing, especially newer or smaller ones who don't want to get called out falsely. That's not healthy for the community. Oh, and then there's the AI argument. Yeah, AI makes it easier for people to churn out content. Yes, it creates risk. But AI isn't the problem here. The problem is intent. If you're intentionally passing off someone else's work as your own, that's the issue. The tool you use to do it, AI or not, is secondary. By leaning too hard on the AI scare tactic, the conversation gets muddied. Viewers end up suspicious of anyone who uses new tools, even when they're being original. That doesn't solve theft, it just spreads paranoia. So let me make this crystal clear. Here are my standards. I don't name other creators unless I have their permission. Now, this one gave it to me in his video, but it was such a shitty way to invite it, so until there was an adult invite coming from him, no, not going to call you out by name. I don't use anyone's footage, images, or words without consent. I always cite primary sources, such as patch notes, dev streams, official statements. If I build on someone else's idea, I add value. I don't just repeat it. If I ever get too close to someone else's work and they call me on it, I'll own it and fix it. That's my line in the sand. And I put it here on record so that there's no confusion. Because for me, this isn't about winning a debate or proving who's smarter. It's about respecting the craft. Content creation is hard. Writing scripts, recording gameplay, editing footage. It takes hours. I cannot speak for others, but it's especially hard for me for several more reasons. It's just me. I don't have anyone to help me with this. I don't have a ton of money. It's a laptop, an okay microphone, and free software to clean it up so it sounds okay. I pull from multiple sources, about 12 different content creators, so, dude, you ain't the only one I'm looking at. I watch their videos. That takes fucking time. I read forums, patch notes, announcements, constant updating socials, posts, replying to comments. It's just me doing all this. The least I could do was respect someone else's work enough not to undermine that work. So let me wrap this up. Yes, my name was mentioned. Yes, my work was shown without permission. Yes, accusations were made about originality that don't hold up under scrutiny. But I don't want this to be what defines my channel. I wanted to respond firmly, set the record straight, and then get back to what I care about most, helping players understand the Division 2 better, offering real information they need or ask for, and having honest discussions about where this game shines and where it struggles. I'm not going to build my channel on drama. I'm just going to build it on integrity. And if that means sometimes stepping aside to clear the air when accusations fly, then fine, I'll do it. But once it's done, it's done. So here's my ask to you, the viewer. Keep supporting creators who put in the work. Reward originality. If you see overlap, don't jump to conclusions. Look for intent. Look for transformation. Look for the honesty. That's how you make the community stronger. Now, hopefully this puts the deflected issue to bed, and we can all move on with our lives. If not, then that's a very clear signal to anyone paying attention to your content that your content has shifted from allegedly helping players with the game to providing news updates to falling under another content creator's recent shift into drama. Either way, I'll sleep with the fan on tonight. Until the next one, this is Hannibal, signing off.